What actually drives communities' growth over time? Is it infrastructure, workforce, leadership, or how do all those pieces come together? Welcome to Powering Growth, presented by ElectriCities, where we explore North Carolina communities and how they grow, adapt, and compete in a changing economy. Each episode, we will talk with people shaping economic development from the ground floor to the global stage. Today, we're joined by Mark Hayes, a business development executive with Financial Times, to talk about foreign direct investment. Mark, welcome to Powering Growth.
Thank you for having me, Casey.
Tell us a little bit about your role and how you work with international companies looking at North America and North Carolina.
Yeah, that's a great question. We work with them kind of in a multitude of ways. So as a division of the Financial Times, our division is called FT Locations. We help corporations with location decisions. We help economic development organizations, utilities with data to help inform location decisions. Same with site selectors and all the other folks involved in economic development decisions. So the way we help is indirect. I often get asked, oh, you're a site selector. I'm not a site selector, but we work with site selectors. And how we do that is we provide data. We are the world's leader in providing foreign direct investment data. So companies know what is happening around them. So economic development organizations know who's here, from where are they from, both domestically and internationally. As a division of the Financial Times, we have access to a lot of information. And we use that access to be good at what we do in terms of writing about foreign direct investment and then providing data to help companies make decisions, whether it be for incentives, whether it be for benchmarking one community against another community. How does Raleigh compare to Austin, Texas, in terms of cost, in terms of their employment, in terms of workforce. And so we'll do cost versus quality analysis in that way, but it's always data based. We're not doing consulting with the companies. We're providing data to them.
Okay. The why now factor. So, from your vantage point at Financial Times, how has the global perception of the American Southeast shifted in the last 2 to 5 years?
Yeah, I'd say quite a bit. At one point, and for a long time, the South was known as somewhere that was affordable. It was going to be cheap land and it was going to be cheap labor, and you need to locate in the South for those two things. Those two things aren't necessarily true anymore. There's actually been more competition from other Midwestern states that say, hey, we also have land. Hey, we also have labor. So the South, the perception of it has changed, that companies are still choosing the South, but it's not because of those things. It's about strategic locations. It's about infrastructure that it's in place. It's about governments that work well with communities, that work well with each other. Because if you're a foreign company, you don't understand there's local government, and then there's a utility, and there's a local utility, and then there's who's providing the power overall, and then there's the state, and so on and so forth. So it's a lot of people that have to work in unison, and the South is very good at that. Supply chains have been put together. And then another thing that I guess it would be more an opinion based on conversations, would be that coming out of the pandemic, you say 2 to 5 years, I think 5 years ago was 2021. There were a lot of states that weren't letting business really happen, how a company would have wanted to happen at that point, whereas the southern states were wide open for business by that point. And I think it drove a lot of people to kind of understand, like, well, this might be more business friendly for me. Business friendly is a term that's thrown around way too often. Last week at Select USA, I heard every state say that they were the most business friendly state. And I'm like, what does that mean? I don't know what it means.
Yeah.
I asked ChatGPT, what does a business friendly mean? But to me, it means you work well with business. You try to encourage business to happen. You not too many things in permitting and different timelines that are just stretching stuff out. So the South will always have that advantage, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a good point. So, we do see companies from all over the world looking at North Carolina. Can you talk a little bit about what's that X factor that really makes North Carolina stand out as an international hub?
Yeah, North Carolina is truly different. It's a diverse state. You have a lot of different industries. You have a lot of things you can't recreate. So you have over 50 universities, over 50 community college. You have 5 tier 1 research universities. Like, there are certain things that other states, you can't just pop those up. You can't just compete with those. So that is the first thing that popped in my head, is your education system. You're creating a workforce, a skilled workforce, that you aren't just manufacturing, you're advanced manufacturing, your life sciences, you're producing EVs. You have critical minerals. So you have mountains on one side, you have an ocean on another. So now we're talking about living in North Carolina is kind of awesome. So now you can attract people easier. People that come in, a lot of companies may have never heard of North Carolina before they came to North Carolina. But then they come in and they say, oh, okay, you can get here fairly easily. Another thing you can't control that you have is you're on the East Coast. So time zones for European nations, you're able to talk to headquarters on the same business day, not have to wait a day. So you have things you guys have created, you have things that you can't copy. And then overall, it's just somewhere that's created a lot of diversity from where companies are coming from and what they do. So you're doing great.
So I'm going to throw a little bit of a question that's not on the list in here, but is there something that you feel like North Carolina potentially could be doing better to kind of help recruit those foreign companies?
Ooh, I'm going to think for a second. What could North Carolina be doing better to recruit foreign companies? That's going to be an answer that everybody could be doing better. So I can't make it specific to North Carolina without having data in front of me. But something everybody could be doing better is kind of shrinking in who they're targeting. So from a foreign perspective, you need to be much more targeted than I hear some communities saying. So even at the community level, for sure, they're like, we'll take whoever's willing to come. It's like, you're not going to land a foreign company by accident unless the state pushes them towards you.
Yeah.
You're not landing them by accident.
So when you say a more targeted focus, are you talking country focus or industry specific?
The answer is yes to that question. So you need to know what your strengths are. You need to know what you have around you. Another thing important to foreign companies is there somebody who's from where I'm from located near there? So you need to know, do you have an Italian company that maybe they're a county over, maybe they're 2 counties over, but 2 other Italian companies, your next door neighbors at that point? Do you have people from those places? But then what are you good at? You can't just, everybody can't be, the next big advanced manufacturing plant. They can't be the next life sciences, the next biotech. Like, you have to know where your strengths are and then target not by sector, but by very specific at the subsector level and beyond that. You're not going to land companies unless you have very specific strategy. And that's something that most communities, they maybe don't take seriously enough from a foreign direct investment standpoint. Because you can get away with it in other business attraction, but at the foreign level, the world's huge.
Yeah.
You have to be very targeted.
So there is a lot of noise right now around tariffs and trade policy. How are these global shifts actually going to impact the boots on the ground decisions for companies who are looking to move?
You'll be interested to know we actually track that. That's a data point we track.
I have to know what actual data point what is that data point called?
That's crazy. So within one of our systems called FDI Markets, we track all global greenfield investment. Every single day we have live updates of companies that have announced projects or of companies who have said, I'm looking to make a change. So that's called our signals. We track signals of companies through all of our sources that we're privy to. And we track when a company has said, I'm looking to move to the United States or I'm moving to the United States because of tariffs. So tariffs are not unique to the United States. But when I hear a question like that, I think, yeah, tariffs, when we talk about global tariffs, we're talking about the United States right now. So we have seen a huge spike in both project announcements in the last year and in signals with a tag where company executive has said that it is due to tariffs. So we have seen a spike in things happening. But that spike in terms of project announcements, it's meaningful, but you might be talking about 40 projects. But you might be talking about, I think 2025, I hate that I know this, but it was about $10 billion in capital expenditure that was committed with tariffs as being one of the reasons that they were coming over.
Do you see a correlation between the tags and specific industries or countries, or is it kind of very generic?
There's a lot of China comes up quite a bit. So there are countries that are manufacturing things that their price point can't withstand what that tariff's going to be. So they're really going to have to make a change. Now, having said that, there's way more signals in the last 6 months than projects being announced, because at the back half of last year, companies started to realize, maybe that's not going to be a thing.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of noise without as much project announcement. Most of the announcements happen prior to the last quarter of last year that were due to tariffs. And now as I looked through May of how many signals we were tracking with tariffs as an indicator, it's less than it was this time last year.
I think the other thing we specifically have noticed as we're doing foreign direct investment trips and visits with companies in Europe is that a lot of them are looking kind of for a soft landing space in the US before doing a full blown manufacturing type of facility. Can you talk a little bit about kind of what you're seeing with kind of what that introduction into the US looks like for some of those foreign companies?
Yeah, it can be I mean, it can be a matter of building everything but the final piece, right? To where you're like, okay, we come in and we finish it in the United States to avoid some of these tariffs, which there were certain there were certain ways that was trying to be stopped. But the answer is yes. You have to think. I often, maybe 100% of the time, try to think from I'm the company CEO, and am I going to uproot and change everything I'm doing and build a $500 million plant for something that might go away
Mm.
in a few years with the change in leadership. So yes, within our systems, it's the same thing. But there have been more significant announcements than I would have thought in my head, um, of people that are like, okay, probably they were looking to make a change. They'd already done a bunch of work, and they're like, you know what, this is the final. Like this is a straw that says we're going to the United States.
Yeah.
But for the most part, yes, the same as you're saying. The least amount you can invest to really see how it's going to go from a company level is going to make more sense.
Okay. So, what is one emerging trend in FDI that every ElectriCities member should kind of have on their radar for 2027?
Yeah, it's it's one that I wish I had like this big reveal, like this thing you're never going to see company coming. But different trends have kind of emerged over the last few years, and it was about workforce for since the pandemic. Workforce was kind of what mattered. Can you have people? Are you going to have people that can work jobs? But now it's energy. So like if you don't have energy, you're out. I don't care if you have every other thing. If you don't have energy, you're removed. Critical minerals are going to start mattering more and more too. So the way economic development's going, the way projects are going with AI infrastructure, with data centers, with semiconductors, energy, like it will mean everything. Which be close with your local utility economic developer.
Yes, please. Yeah, I will say that we've seen, even with the foreign direct projects and US based ones, we tend to be one of the first phone calls. Whereas in the past, we were definitely not one of the first. It was kind of a last, oh, by the way, this project is looking at your area, et cetera. But, we have started to become more proactive with our communities, recognizing that you need to know what your capacity is right now and what it's going to be in 5 years, and how do you get there, what does that cost, and what is that ramp schedule. I don't know if you've seen this with a lot of the foreign companies, but I know we're seeing it on a domestic side, is that the timetables for these companies from the time they reach out to when they want to be like operational keeps getting smaller.
Yep. Yeah, and I could speak to that for sure. That's across the board. Everyone agrees with that. When you're talking about site selectors, when you're talking with companies themselves, absolutely, they expect a quick turnaround. And I imagine that makes your job a little more. I bet your inbox is full all the time.
It is. It is. And then I guess my last question really is, what is the biggest misconception that you see around foreign direct investment and those types of projects?
There's a couple that come to mind. One of them, the first thing I think of when I thought of that, and it's probably not most people's first thing, but that foreign companies know who or where you are.
Mm.
Like, I think of myself, I work in this space. Like, the global geography, I'm pretty good at. There's probably not a single country that I can think of 10 cities outside of the United States. There's probably not a single country I can think of 5 states outside of the United States. And companies don't even do this. They're not working in my space. So when you say like, oh, we're in North Carolina, you're gonna get the question like, is that near New York or is that near Los Angeles? Like, like
Yep.
what is that near? And then like I think even most U.S. citizens, much less from a foreign perspective, don't realize how geographically large the United States is. Like you can fit all of Western Europe geographically inside the United States. So if you're like, I saw, I saw again at a previous conference, a lot of marketing flyers like we're within 500 miles of 80% of the population of the state. So it's like, well, like that's a long way. It's
Yeah.
huge. Like we're neighbors with South Dakota. Yeah, it's so I would say kind of assuming they know where you are. Even at the state level it's probably not true. As much as we love who we are and where we are and we're proud of it, and that's great, you kind of got to spread that message. But then another thing that comes into my brain is how important what is called globally aftercare, but business retention and expansion for foreign companies, I would almost argue is more important.
Okay.
You need to be making sure they're being taken care of because they've uprooted.
Yeah.
They've not only changed where their business is located, they've changed where they live. They've come into a new culture. They're going to have challenges that maybe a domestic company wouldn't have. And if you take care of them, if you're actively trying to make sure that their needs are met, you're going to land more foreign investment because their experience will come out in the wash, as they say. So yeah, I would say those two things. Don't assume people know who you are or where you are, and then take care of the companies you already have, because the data also will show you you're going to create more jobs and more CapEx from those that are located where you are. So yeah, I'm experiencing that in my hometown right now. We're in like phase 3 of a giant South Korean investment that keeps creating more jobs and more CapEx. That was one investment.
Yeah. I feel like we've seen a lot of that too, is from, like you mentioned, just kind of Eastern Europe coming into North Carolina, just with the access to the ports, and then just having those international connections through the airports and things like that as well. Most companies, when I talk to them, they're like, oh, I know Charlotte or Raleigh because they've flown through those with those nonstop flights. But other than that, they don't know kind of geographically where that is located. They just know that they have airports and they've flown through them.
Yeah, 100%. And there's opportunities in that, just to be able to grab attention. I was speaking with a Ukrainian company. You speak of Eastern Europe, a Ukrainian company. They're like, we need to move to the United States right now. And in my mind, I'm thinking way too like, yeah, it's, war torn, this, that, and the other. And there's no men to work in our factory.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's just things that you're like, oh, it's so
Yeah.
obvious, but they don't have male employment to do the heavy lifting that's required in their line of work. So yeah, that was a couple weeks ago. I was like, oh yeah, I was like ready to have this big emotional conversation. He's like, we just need muscle.
I mean, that makes sense,
Yeah.
when you think about probably where 90% of that population is right now.
Yeah, they've been drafted.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to wrap up with some rapid fire questions.
I'm nervous.
You shouldn't be. All right. Beach or mountains?
Beach every time.
East Coast or West Coast?
East Coast.
Fun socks or plain socks?
Fun socks.
I saw that. I had to.
Yesterday, I was wearing Hostess Twinkie socks. Why? I don't know.
Oh, man.
These are my golf socks. They're my business socks.
And the last one that is very important. Coke or Pepsi?
Coke.
Oh.
Coke Zero specifically.
Okay. We can cut that. All right. Well, I appreciate you joining us today. Will you let our listeners know where they can find you or reach out to you?
Yeah. Mark Hayes. Honestly, if you're just interested in data, anything that is kind of nerdy that you just want to know why things are happening from a data perspective, you can reach me at my name, mark.hays@ft.com, as in Financial Times, FT. Reach out if you have questions about data or anything like that. I'm happy to answer those.
Thank you. Well, thank you for joining us at Powering Growth. You can find more out about ElectriCities at electricities.com. Be sure to tune in for our next episode.